and welcome back to your Puppy Blueprint, where you can stop guessing, wondering, and Googling how to have a well-behaved puppy and discover how to turn the chaos to calm. I'm your host, Kelly Fahey, and I'm joined by Annika McDade. Before we get started, I want to tell you a little bit about Annika. She's the founder of Canine Connection Training. She's also a triple certified professional behavior consultant coach with a passion for facilitating connection between dogs and their people, and has even been involved in the training of wild animals for film. Wolves in Mongolia, to be specific. I mean, how cool is that? Annika is invested she's invested in the transformation of her clients as their pets. She uses her time coaching people and their pets to encourage self-reflection and gently invites you to get curious around your relationship with your dog, including your humor. That's important, as she helps you fix those behavioral problems. But first, we'll help you understand your dog and your relationship to your dog on a deeper level. Annika has been rated as one of the top trainers in Vancouver, Canada, and she can also be seen as a regular contributor on TV and print news. Her future passion project is the formation of a collaborative service bringing pet therapy and human emotional healing needs together when there's a time that people and dogs need it most, which I think is a completely cool project. So I can't wait to see that. We're going to be chatting today about relationship building and expectations when we have a puppy, the reality versus expectations. Welcome, Annika. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm excited to share some thoughts.
Yeah, I love this topic so much because I don't think there's a puppy person out there that has not brought home a puppy, had these hopes and dreams and expectations, and then the reality sets in and it's very different. And it can really leave people with a lot of different feelings.
Totally. I think some of the things, like, it's funny, we basically get paid a lot of the time as trainers to normalize. Half my job is just saying that's normal. There's nothing wrong with your puppy. There's nothing wrong with your relationship. These are all normal phases.
Right.
And it can really alleviate a lot of stress and pressure and judgment from the person and allow them to kind of connect on a deeper level with their puppy that is likely causing them a lot of stress.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I say it all the time that people have that Saturday evening post magazine cover in their head of what it's going to look like, or those adorable like pet food commercials where kids and dogs and families, just have this, cue the great music and everything is wonderful. But when you peel back the curtain, it's not that simple and easy. There's a lot more to it. And we often set ourselves up for failure right from the beginning with all these grand expectations. And that's really a lot to lay on a puppy when they come in, like all these hopes and dreams and everything that we have.
Yeah. And they don't do so well with so much pressure on them when they're just trying to learn where the safe place is and who the heck you are. And yeah, it's a lot of pressure. I think also it's sort of a time in the world where it's really easy to make things look a certain way from the outside. And we don't, as a collective, talk about our suffering very publicly. Like Instagram and Facebook and social media is very much the best moments highlighted. And I think puppy raising in 2023 doesn't involve a very clear lens of what it actually looks like, because most people aren't sharing the hard days, the tears, the broken fingers from gnawing on it, or their favorite ripped sweater, the kids that are scared of the puppy that you brought home to bring your family together. Like, there's some really harsh realities that happen when you bring these little vulnerable souls into your home. And I think it's really important we talk about that. It's hard. And it's not all butterflies and rainbows, and and that doesn't make it wrong or not normal.
Yeah, and you're right, because when you see the videos and all the stuff posted online of this great thing happening with this puppy, you can't blame people sometimes for kind of looking at their puppy and going, well, how come it's not like that? What am I doing wrong? Or, what's wrong with my puppy? And like you said, these are basically let's roll the videotape and the highlight reel of all the good stuff going on, because that's what everybody wants to show and brag about. They're not really showing the behind the scenes, like you said, all the stuff. I remember when Kazoo was a little bit younger and he had an accident. I took a picture of the pee and I posted it, like, look, accidents happen even to trainers. No one's perfect. You're never going to get it right 100% of the time. It doesn't even matter if you're a trainer. Things are going to happen, and that was my
accident. Totally agree.
So.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think as coaches or trainers or leaders in this educational space, remembering to be honest and have humility in the pursuit. Like, I don't claim to have a perfect dog. I share that journey so that I'm relatable to my clients. And I think you actually really said quite an important point there that I want to just tease apart for a second. You said, when something's not going well with your puppy in relationship, oftentimes we blame ourselves or we think there's something wrong with our puppy.
Right.
And those two things are massive to break apart. Why do we jump in to think it's us that's causing a problem? And why are we assuming it's a problem based on comparing our dog to another dog, which are two really common human tendencies, and where your puppy can be such a beautiful lesson and invitation for you to check yourself. It's not about me being a problem right now necessarily, and it's not about having to compare my dog to other dogs. It's a very comparative culture. So our dogs aren't immune to that normal response as a person, I think. So it's just interesting that you touched on that, because I think it shapes our relationship in the early weeks with our dogs.
It does. And I'm often telling people that famous quote of how comparison is the thief of joy.
Mhm.
Especially whether you're comparing your puppy to what you see from someone else or even other dogs that you've had in the past.
Exactly.
Zoo is completely different than one of our pit bulls that we lost last year. Yeah, I wanted to get another pit bull. I love them, but all my dogs, we've had a lot of dogs come through this home, all different personalities, learning at different speeds. They're all individuals just like us. They're not
Exactly.
not cookie.
Exactly. And I think we could spare ourselves a lot of resentment or residual grief from our lost dogs if we entered having a new puppy from that empty nest situation, and maybe still with a little bit of grief. If we just accept and put some effort into, like, it, I don't expect it to look the same. I don't need it to be the same. And it's not going to be anything wrong with this new little being in my life if it's not comparable to the last one.
Yeah.
And same with kids. Like, I mean, people, I'm not a mother, but I imagine every child that you have is probably very different, and you can't compare your love for one or the other, and you don't expect them to be the same, and not to overly compare humans to dogs. But I think the nature of our relationships should in some ways be quite similar, where we don't expect them to be the same. And I think that non-attachment allows for a lot better connection with your new little buddy.
Yeah. And when you think about it too, like you might miss the other dog that you had, but this whole adorable little goofy bundle in front of you, they've got their own personality. You don't want to miss out on that. You want to enjoy all their own little funny things that they do and their own quirks and all the different things that make them them.
Exactly.
And have that relationship with that dog. It's all different. We don't. Sometimes it's hard too, because when you do lose another dog, sometimes you have such a love for that dog, it can be easy to project onto your next dog. And so you have to kind of separate those things out, because it's really not fair to do that to your new puppy. And wow, what a burden for that poor little puppy to take on too, right? To
And
try to fill those shoes.
I think they feel it. Like, I see a lot of correlation between people comparing to a last dog that they're still in grief over, which is totally fair. And the puppy, it's hard to not be accepted when you're trying to adjust to a new environment.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's easy for us to say, and it's a great human practice. Like, how can I let go and with love accept something without even feeling guilty about loving this new puppy? Guilt in loving the new puppy is as hard, I think, as letting go of the other one.
Yeah, and you can do both. One doesn't
Yeah.
have anything to do with the other. They could be completely separate. I had a Facebook memory pop up yesterday from one of my dogs who's been gone 4 years. And um, the memories now are happy when they come up, whereas they were really hard in the beginning. And I shared those memories that came up because it was like some goofy pictures that I had taken of her, and they made me smile. And when I shared it, I had said how she was such a great dog, and something to the fact that there would never be another dog like her. But that wasn't negative towards any other dog that I've had since then. It's just that she was who she was in her own way, and not that there wasn't going to be another dog like her, like as good as her. There isn't going to be another dog like her because of who she was, and there's not going to be another dog like the one we lost last year, or like this goofy guy over here, or Toast who's in the other room. they're all unique, and there isn't ever going to be another one like them. And so enjoying who they are and all that they are is really important.
Even when it hurts.
Even when it hurts, absolutely, because it does
It
sometimes hurt.
hurts. Yeah.
Exactly. So how can people have a better or healthier relationship with their dog?
Yeah, I didn't write down a whole bunch of things even to prepare for our conversation or for people to learn about. I think that it's really different for every relationship based on the dynamic in the home, the dog's individual needs, what role that dog might play in your life as their caretaker. Um, so so I'm careful to blanket statement, but generally I think there's a few themes that people need to be mindful of when they're trying to really deepen their connection with their puppy or their adult dog even. And one of the common things I see is we're always rushing. And I learned this. I'm preaching what I am practicing on a daily basis, but as a very busy entrepreneur, raising a puppy and videotaping all of it and using it as learning opportunity for everybody else, I have to make sure that I'm learning from that. And my lesson with my dog Cedar, who was all over YouTube for the first year of his life, is put the phone down and stop watching the TV and running out and walking them and then running back in and doing the pee break because you have to, and then I have to do the nap, and then I have that energy of franticness and with such good intention, trying to get everything right and stick to the schedule, and you need to do it right, and you need to do it right, and we can't ruin this. And the pressure with getting it right and not just taking the time sometimes to be with them and welcome what they need in that moment off schedule is really a great way to learn them. And they change, as you know, Kelly, so much until a year and a half, two, developmentally, and their behavior is always changing, and they're kind of always surprising you for that first year and a half, especially, that if you're not paying attention, you're missing their communication markers. You're not just like that they have to pee, but also what they might need, what they may have developed a fear over. It's not, I think we're so focused on getting out and going and doing that thing, like very militant in our being productive in our lives, especially in an urban environment, that it can be really difficult to slow down and connect with what you need and what they need. And so I invite people to check in with what their dog needs, which is also an opportunity to check in with what you need in the middle of your day, because that giving to the puppy in the first 3 months will leave you very depleted and resentful when you have a teething 4-month-old who's tearing apart your house because you didn't stop and slow down and recognize what you might need outside your puppy too. So first tip, slow down. A lot of work. Yes.
Yeah. No, and that's a great tip too, because sometimes when people get their puppies, or a lot of time when people get their puppies, they're so focused on making sure that they have a good dog.
Mm-hmm.
And they are, as you said, a little bit, for lack of a better word, militant, that they're trying to do all the things. Like, I have to have my puppy do this. I need my puppy to do that. And you're not really enjoying your puppy. And yeah, we want our puppies to be well behaved, right? We don't want the monkeys to run the circus.
Yeah.
But there seems to be like this other end of the spectrum and not really any in between. It's like, I need this to stop, or I need my puppy to do this. There's all these very tough things that we want to have done, and not coming from a place of a bad place, but just whether it's there's the pressure to do it because they see all the good puppies on YouTube and on social media, or because of the general raggedness that comes along with having puppies and all the craziness as you're all trying to learn how to live with each other, and everything. And so it can be sometimes, I think, hard for people to enjoy their puppies and kind of take a little bit of a step back and take a breather. And I've said this a few times during this event, is, people are always surprised when I talk about how when I bring my puppy home, I'm not diving into the training. Like, we're figuring each other out. We're playing games, which are training related, which will lead to things later on that I want my puppy to do, but not so focused on the skills. We're I'm enjoying my puppy. I'm taking lots of goofy pictures. I'm laughing at all the things they do, and getting to figure out the new puppy that I have,
Yeah.
and just trying to help them acclimate. And the other stuff kind of comes along as we're working and playing games and
Yeah.
everything. So yeah.
Totally agree. I always have people, like, most common thing is people hire me for with young puppies is nipping. And then all of a sudden, all the time, it's got to stop nipping now. The kids are scared. My husband wants to send it back. Like, it's a very common pressure cooker
Right.
theme of, like, if this doesn't stop, my dream is gone and the dog is going back. It's always so much pressure for everybody. And I totally understand where that's coming from, and I get it. But I do think that people always want to train their dog leash manners when they're like 2 months old. So how do I teach it not to pull on leash? I'm like, oh, we'll go there. And personally, as a trainer, and many trainers have different opinions about that. But for me, I'm like, we'll go there when his brain is formed. How do we, like, for now, just figure out who he is.
Yeah.
When, like, what are his P signals, and can we get him to be comfortable alone? We can deal with obedience at any point. We can't impact their spongy brain after a certain amount of weeks. So we have to really focus on that connection, confidence, and all the puppy socialization checklist stuff before I go into manners or skill set.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know sometimes when I'm starting with a new puppy client, they'll talk about their goal. We always go over goals, long-term goals, and leash walking is always on there. And sometimes we'll be playing some games as we're working together, and they're all games. Doesn't matter whether you're teaching a skill or not, they're all games.
Yeah.
To your puppy. And at one point when we're working, sometimes as they're playing the game and they're getting better at it, I go, now look at this is going to be eventually, but right now you're just playing a game with your puppy. But can you see how this is going to transform? And they're like, oh, it's like, trust the process. We're going to get.
Yes. Trust the process is so important.
Yeah. And I do all these things with my own puppy. So I'm not asking you to do anything different. I do all these things with my own puppy, and everything. So, and, we touched on this a little bit earlier, like when we were chatting about how people can be hard on themselves and even on their puppy when the reality doesn't match those expectations. Everybody's got this in their head before that puppy comes home of what life is going to be like before the puppy even comes through the door. And we don't always set ourselves up for success. How do our expectations as pet parents impact our relationship with our dogs?
Love that. I coach on this a lot because I like to go into the human behavior component. So, like, when I have a client and I too ask them, what are your goals? What's your lifestyle? What does the puppy mean to you and your family? Or what is their part of this unit that is in your home? And there's a pipe dream. There's a puppy dream always. It's our companion if we are alone. It's the child we maybe can't have. It's the best friend that will always be there for us. It's the heartbreak fixer in our grief. It is so much more than just, hey, I got a cute puppy. It's the glue of a family unit that might be starting to separate. It's to make the children okay if they're going through hardship. It is, like we said earlier, so much pressure, but the dream is so relevant. But that dream equates to pressure on a puppy, which is a living, sentient being who can feel that on some levels. So I coach people on questioning or challenging for themselves. Where does that goal come from? Where does your expectation right now come from? So at least they're aware, oh, you know what? That's pressure someone else has put on me. It's not mine. And we tease that out. And then, what are your greatest fears about where we're going here with this puppy? And then we tease that out. So there's a lot of human emotion and probably our own traumas or challenges as children growing up that are actually, I see a lot brought into our puppy parenting experience. And so with openness, or when it's appropriate, we talk about those things a little bit so that we can make sure that we're not putting all that pressure on a puppy. And then when it's not such an intimate coaching with the person in that personal way, and we're more talking about, what are realistic expectations, which is more of the common conversation that we have with people. It's that I think because of the pretty pictures and the commercials and the Instagrams, we're attached to the dream And we think that because it doesn't look like the dream right away, we're not on course. But just like you said earlier, trusting the process is such an important part of this. Is like your dream's over here, and we are going to take 2 years to walk that direction. It's going to zigzag, it's going to go backward, it's going to feel like the worst mistake you've ever made. You're going to nosedive. What have I done? And that's all the normal process to getting here, which might look a little bit different in the end. In 2 years, our expectations change, our lifestyles change, the direction we were trying to go changes with them, and they change and we grow. So I think remaining adaptable and fluid and open-minded and open-hearted in the emotional journey of having a puppy is super important.
Yeah.
And remembering it doesn't have to be about everything looking perfect or being perfect. It literally is a journey to get where you're trying to go. And there is no finish line. It's forever with them. And we're so lucky.
Yeah. And being open-minded, as you said, I think is really important too, because, you know, you were talking about these expectations, and, you know, we often see before that puppy comes home, somebody, you know, on the whole other side of it is like, I'm going to do agility with my puppy. Well, your puppy might not like agility. Or I'm going to get a new puppy and we are going to do barn hunt, or I'm going to get a puppy and we are going to do this, but your puppy might not have those same aspirations and everything. And so being open-minded, and there's nothing wrong with trying these things and seeing what your puppy likes. But one of our dogs that's no longer with us, I had big dreams for him when I adopted him, and he had a lot of medical issues. And so we didn't do any of those things because his health was priority one, getting him healthy, making sure he's okay. He just was who he was he had a lot of health issues his whole life. And there was just no way I was going to put him through this stuff because I wanted him to be able to do this. That was my dream. That wasn't his dream. and so we didn't do that. And we had 12 beautiful years together doing tons of things, just not what I thought we might do together. And that's okay. We took a different path. And I didn't love him any less. Our relationship wasn't worse because of it, because having that open mind and seeing what your puppy's actually best suited for. You know, it's no different than if your child wants to be a plumber and you want them to go to medical school, or if you want them to, you know, follow in the footsteps of the family plumbing business, but they want to be a doctor. You know, you can't force them. They're not going to like what they do, and it's never going to work out. So
I totally agree. I think that honoring the dog that's in front of you is the gateway to a loving, unconditional relationship with them. And what an incredible invitation to both put into practice and experience what unconditional love actually is to give, because it's something that as human beings we want. We want the grace. We want to be accepted exactly as we are. And now we have a puppy that maybe not ending up in the direction of what we thought we were going to get or thought we wanted. But you can't do this unless it's right for everybody and you've exhausted all the resources and it feels right for you and there's no judgment there. But I think it's important that we honor what we got and trust that we got it for a reason. And it might look different, feel different, and change the course of the dream. But again, I believe it happens for a good reason. And I really relate to you on that, where I got my dog Cedar, Siberian Husky, high energy. Let's go backcountry camping. We'll be 4x4ing and off in the mountains adventuring. I live at the base of a mountain. We'll play with all the dogs and we'll have a great life. And he couldn't be social with dogs for the first 6 months of his life because of a chronic injury that we couldn't figure out. Now he can't go on the off-leash trails with other dogs because he's a lunatic.
Yeah.
And he can't physically go on the 20-kilometer hike I want to go on. And it took a lot of letting go, active letting go for me to be able to share with people that beautiful lesson of letting it go and moving on and loving him for exactly who he gets to be with me.
Absolutely. And when we're bringing this puppy into our home, we're looking for this partner, this basically team member. And just like any relationship, it's got to be on an equal playing field. It can't be all about what you want. You've got to, what is your teammate interested in? What does your teammate or your partner want as well? And
we're not good at compromising.
Yeah. And you might want these things, but they might not have the same goals. And we've got to take that into consideration. And if we don't, we're just going to be more frustrated with the dog in front of us And that's not fair. That goes back to that. That's a lot of pressure for this teeny little puppy that you brought home that,
Yeah.
that, they didn't sign up for this.
No, I
So,
totally agree. And that's a very difficult and long process for people to have that acceptance. And I get that when they're young puppies, we're trying to prevent a lot of the time us going in the wrong direction for what we wanted. Um, and when dogs are teenagers or becoming adults, we can see some flare-ups of behavior. And that's often when we have, people at their breaking point with their dogs because they're having to come to terms with the fact that it's not what they thought it was going to be. And so the journey's not over when they're done being puppies. It just
yeah,
goes on and on and on, as you
it
know.
does. Yeah. And, a lot of big feelings can happen with people when they feel like things aren't like the picture they envisioned, or when they think the puppy should be further ahead and doing better, or whatever it is. How can people deal with their frustrations, disappointments, their stress, surrounding their dog, and of course other people's opinions too? Like we'll go back to that, the onlookers, where you sometimes get comments from those people.
Yes. I love that you said big feelings because I think a lot of the time, and more again on the human psychology level, we end up adopting, I think by accident, the concept that our dogs are a reflection of us, a direct reflection of us. So they are basically a representation of us walking around. And I can't deny that often that is in fact the case, but I think that adds another element of pressure on you as a pet parent to make sure that they are not embarrassing you, scaring somebody, making anybody uncomfortable, particularly for people that are people pleasers. My dog has to be kind to everybody and never upset anybody and cannot have boundaries because I can't be the one with the dog that's disrupting things. There's a lot of our own anxieties and fears that are projected onto the dog's behavior. And so it's very real when you get accosted by a stranger on the street, labeling your dog as something or offering unsolicited advice. It's really belittling sometimes and it hurts, and our nervous systems get all ignited and dysregulated, and then we blame ourselves for our dog then barking because we got scared and they got scared, and it's as you know a cycle that continues. So I think it's very important to talk about it. It's normal for your nervous system to get dysregulated, for you to feel anxious and uncomfortable if there's conflict with your dog, your puppy, with another dog. People are going to make you uncomfortable sometimes. Saying no to people petting your puppy will be hard. And so I think a few things would be finding your voice, knowing it's okay to say, no, we're training, thank you. Your puppy doesn't need to be touched by everybody that wants to touch it or meet every dog that wants to meet it. And that's a really hard one for a lot of people in busier environments. I think having boundaries and advocating for your dog is a great way to start the relationship. And then taking care of yourself and having coaches that understand you, trainers that support you, a community of pet parents that are raising their puppy with you so you can text each other about how much your fingers hurt or how frustrated you are, ask for advice from like-minded people, and self-care. Self-care goes right out the window, like I said earlier, when we get puppies, and we need patience like greater than I think people realize when you have a new puppy. And if you're stressed already and not taking care of yourself and only focusing on how everything needs to look and feel a certain way with your puppy, you're setting yourself up for a really difficult, conflict-filled relationship with them. So taking care of you is taking care of them, even if they're young, and getting help so that's possible for you in the first few months is, I think, really important and overlooked often.
Yeah. And I think what you said about finding your voice, and by nature, I think people, they feel like they're being rude to somebody if they say something to them like, no, you can't pet my puppy. But you want to do what's best for your puppy. You want to do what's best for you. If you had a 4-year-old that you were walking with down the street and somebody wanted to come and touch them and feel their hair, you would say, no, you can't touch them.
Exactly.
Like, oh, what pretty hair you have. You would think that person was a lunatic for coming up and
Totally
doing that.
not
Um,
appropriate.
Right. And I always say use humor if you have to. It can be fun to diffuse the situation too. Like I know people have had comments to them where they're teaching polite leash walking and they're working on it. Well, nobody's going to get that right out of the gate. The person's learning how to teach it. The puppy doesn't know what the heck they're doing. They're learning. And sometimes people will hear that comment, who's walking who?
I know, everyone.
Yeah, you're funny.
Yeah.
You should go on the Tonight Show. You could just have fun with that and be like, oh, he's just a baby. He's learning. You know what? He's having a great time.
Yeah.
We'll get there. Just kind of have fun with it.
Or you can point at your earplugs.
Yeah,
Sorry.
right, right. Yeah. Just have a good
Earbuds, I
time.
mean.
Or, try to turn it around and, garner some sympathy from the people where, yeah, you know what? He's like really shy and he's learning, and we're working on that right now. And kind of just, don't be afraid to say it if your puppy's a little bit nervous or shy or
Yeah.
something. Like let them go, oh yeah, okay. And have a little bit of sympathy too, because maybe then they'll think twice the next time before they say something to the next person that they run into at the pet store or the farmer's market.
You're nicer than me. I always well, not always. I sometimes joke with my clients and I say, if somebody, especially dog people that are not listening to you and they're like, but puppy, I don't care if he's scared, he'll love me. Those are the people that are really struggle to respect boundaries. I always tell
Yeah.
my clients to put their hands up and say, he's contagious.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to do that.
But
We used to work with a lot of reactive dogs because those people would panic about anybody coming into their space. And I would always tell them, tell them he's got mange.
yeah, exactly. It works really well.
Yeah, I'm not going to go near that and everything. No, but yeah. And you know what? I've said this a bunch of times. If somebody's going to be offended by what I say, I'm not gonna lose sleep over it. They're not coming over for holiday dinners.
Yeah.
So,
It's okay.
yeah, they're going to get in the car. They're going to forget all about it. Right. And so don't
Yeah.
you dwell on it either. They're going to get in the car and forget about it. They're going to move on with their day and they're going to go shopping. So you don't need to,
Yeah.
sweat it and worry about it. They're going to forget it as soon as they leave the area.
I heard a quote today that's relevant to that. I can't remember word for word, but it basically was the most freeing experience I had in my life was when I realized people weren't noticing me or noticing what I was doing and didn't think I was as important as I thought I was. Because when you say no, thank you, and you feel rude, likely 5 minutes later, they're on to their problem, not yours. So
Right.
it's
I love
okay.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So before we wind up, I want to, kind of talk a little bit about what are the most fundamental ways of having the dog of your dreams.
Oh, oh, I
Because
think I've talked.
we obviously still want to have a well-mannered dog, and we still have things that we want to do. And so, we want to make sure we do address that.
Yeah, I think that not having too much pride is important. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to feel in over your head. It's okay to seek professional support. It doesn't mean you're a failure if you're doing those things. In fact, I think acting preventatively with a puppy is what sets you up for the most success to continue to follow the breadcrumbs towards the dog dream that you have. So, knowing that it's okay to be not okay. It's really okay to not be okay in the puppy raising journey. And you can say that out loud. So yeah, being humble about that. And yeah, like we said, open-mindedness, taking the time to connect with them. Yeah, acknowledging the little soul that's in front of you and remembering that they can feel a lot of what you're feeling. So don't undermine what your intuition is telling you about your interactions with them. Listen to your gut, listen to your intuition, which requires you slowing down enough to hear it. And that will continue to guide you to having that loving relationship with your dream puppy.
Yeah. And, you talked about not being afraid to get help. And it is kind of funny because some people will call and they know they're getting a puppy and they're like, I know I'm not going to know what I'm doing. I want to get some help before my puppy comes. And then we'll get their puppy and they find they're in over their heads and then they reach out to get some help. But sometimes people figure that they can just do it on their own. And some people can, but most people can't. There's a lot of trainers out there for a reason. And
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with getting that help. These puppies do not come with a user manual. But
No.
they do not come with instructions. They do not come pre-programmed. And it doesn't matter if you've had a puppy before, because I hear this all the time. I had a puppy before, but now they have this new puppy, and it's almost like they didn't have a dog before because they
Yeah.
don't remember, and things, they feel different to them now, whether it's because they're older now or this puppy's a little bit different from the other one and giving
Yeah.
them some challenges. And so getting that help you need is important because, how would you know? how would you know what to do in all the different situations and how to handle all the different situations and preventing separation anxiety and house training and the leash walking and all of these things? I mean, how would you know? You wouldn't,
Mhm.
and everything.
Mm.
So getting that help is really important. A really good trainer will help you with your journey along the way, with those puppy blues and all of
Mhm.
those other things that come up, because it is a journey, as you said earlier. And I always tell everybody you should enjoy your puppy journey because it is really special.
And it's not supposed to be fun the whole time. Part of the journey and what makes it special is embracing those really hard weeks, knowing on the other side of that phase or that behavior concern, is another really nice patch. It's just like any other growing relationship. There's ebbs and flows. And we don't know the feeling of the light unless we get to feel the dark. And so, knowing that it's normal to have bad days and weeks and even months with a puppy is important, I think.
Yeah, and that puppy, even though you've got these big dreams, aspirations, and expectations, your puppy's looking up at you and says, I don't know what you want from me. And we have to guide them. They're not going to
Yeah.
just magically do all these things that we want them to do. And it is up to us to guide them. And so getting that help is really important because your puppy doesn't have a clue. No
Yeah.
idea. They are 100% reliant on you to help guide them, nourish them into this life and
Yeah.
everything. So
I agree.
takes a lot. It is tiring, and
Mm.
there, as you said earlier, there are sometimes, what did I do? It's
Mhm.
completely natural because it can be overwhelming. They don't come with instructions,
Yeah.
and you're both figuring it out together.
At the same time.
So, yeah. So I know you have something for our audience today. Do you want to tell about what your free gift is for everybody?
Yeah, I have two actually. I have a free puppy socialization checklist,
Excellent.
to keep people remembering all the things they need to consider exposing their puppy to before that 16-week mark, ideally. And then the other thing is a 30-day enrichment challenge, maybe a bit more appropriate when your dog is getting a little older and easier bored, 4 months plus perhaps.
Mhm.
But it's 30 days of mental enrichment and physical challenges for your puppy to keep their training engaging, enriching, fun, and playful with you versus rules oriented.
Love that. Yeah, I love that. And with that enrichment, comes it does help with some of these other challenges
Yeah.
that we're having. It all weaves together. So very, very helpful. I love that. Oh, wow. That's fantastic. So thank you so much for sharing that extra surprise gift, you guys. I only knew about the one before we got started. So thank you for that. And before we leave, do you have any last minute advice or thoughts for our folks listening?
I talked a lot. I feel like,
We probably hit all the points.
yeah, and maybe I'll just summarize with take deep breaths, embrace the ride. It's an adventure and it's not supposed to look a certain way, and be kind on yourself, in the pursuit of that dog dream.
Yeah, and like you said before, patience. It's one of the things that I say all the time too. Is time and patience, which is not the best qualities of us humans.
Yeah.
So we're not
Agree.
we don't always do the best in those categories.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us today and talking about the realities of puppies. That's I think it's going to be really helpful for everybody because hopefully everybody can collectively take a nice big sigh
Yeah.
after this session. And to all the puppy parents out there who joined us, puppy raising can feel messy and overwhelming. Thank you so much for taking the time to learn about reality versus expectations so you can set you and your puppy up for success. Celebrate those small steps as they lead to your bigger goals. And don't forget to grab Annika's freebies. She got two of them for you in the link below. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you. Bye-bye.